from the Salvation Army National Headquarters,
this is the Fight for Good podcast.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fight for Good podcast. I'm your host, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Foley, and we're broadcasting from our remote studios here in Alexandria, Virginia, at National Headquarters in, well, I just said it, Alexandria, Virginia, on a beautiful fall afternoon. With me is our editorial director, Mr. Jeff McDonald.
Greetings from my little corner of the world here in Fairfax County, Virginia.
I heard you as I was talking, you flipping pages back and forth. So you must be rustling the pages there of your current issue of the War Cry in your basement, I take it.
Exactly what I'm doing.
You're so excited.
Reliving all the great material in it.
You're just so excited. You're just flipping through the pages. You're going, okay,
it's
what's
like,
this?
Wow, look at that.
It's amazing. And with us once again, keeping it all together, making the magic happen, Elizabeth, our executive producer. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello there.
Things are going well for you in your neck of the woods, I take it?
My neck of the woods is super swell. I'm loving life.
Well, here we are. I think it's our 7th or 8th month in COVID, COVID separation. I don't think I've seen either of you in person for a while, and I miss that. But we're grateful for the technology and the means that we can kind of come together, have a little bit of chat. This particular episode of our podcast here is the episode in which we talk a little bit about what's in the latest issue, and we're very excited every time a new issue comes out. Lots of work go into each of these pages, and it's a great team that we have, Jeff. Just some great artists and editors and things that you've pulled together, and here it is. You pulled it off one more time. It's amazing.
We keep doing it with your help and guidance, but in addition to our great team that we work with internally, we're part of a large network across the Army that contributes to us as well, and also helps distribute the magazine and use it. So we're part of a really broad network.
We'll say it right off at the top of our show today. We really, 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 really want your feedback. And I know, Elizabeth, you're able to pull sometimes things off of our social media feeds of comments that people have about not only the podcast but the magazines itself. And what are some of the things that you're seeing out there in some of our social media feeds and in how people are responding?
Oh, gee whiz. What a question. I've seen a lot of good, positive feedback, good vibes all around.
Good vibes all around. And
yeah.
And we had a recent comment from an officer who complimented us on all the things that we're doing on the social media. And Jeff and I both tipped our caps to our media manager, Elizabeth, for you're doing a great job with promoting all of that we're doing, not only in publications, but what the Salvation Army is doing across the board, working in conjunction with our community relations development team. So thanks for what you're doing, Elizabeth.
Oh, gee whiz. It's such an honor.
Well, Jeff, we've got the November 2020 issue of the War Cry, and we are recording this episode in the last week of October of 2020. I think all of us just can't wait for this year to get over. But this is the last issue that we have produced for this year. We've already done the Christmas War Cry issue, which I think, Elizabeth, are you scheduling a podcast for us on that one too?
You bet I am.
The funny thing is I think our faithful listeners and readers will know and appreciate that the Christmas War Cry takes a little longer for us to make, but we've got this issue out, Jeff, in everybody's hand, and there's a big hashtag on the front cover. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes, given that the Army, along with the general population, is just so pressed by the COVID-19 outbreak and the threat of it. The question is, how can we honor Christmas, especially through the Salvation Army? The Christmas season is a hallmark for the Army. It's a time of spreading goodwill, and the Army has always underlined that emphasis and tries to live it out through the year. But particularly for the Army, of course, the Army's famed kettle campaign, where the red kettles are prominently displayed across the nation in front of stores and in malls, etc. This year, the traffic is down, as anticipated to be down. The receptivity of requests for donations is not on everyone's mind. And at the same time, we want to be true to the reason for the season. And that is why the Army introduced the Rescue Christmas campaign, #RescueChristmas, to try and reinforce that. And we portray that on our cover. And with an explanation inside, and with alternatives for people to donate listed inside as well. So that's kind of an overview of that Rescue Christmas campaign, which we included in this November issue, which should be, at locations by this weekend at the latest. And if people need additional copies or replacement copies, they can always contact us.
Well, Rescue Christmas was rolled out mid-September this year. I know a national commander was on a real big media blitz, working with our community relations and development department, and we kind of dovetailed a little bit in on this. And you've produced a nice piece here that kind of explains what Rescue Christmas is. I'm just amazed at how the Salvation Army continues to pivot and adapt to the pandemic. And we're finding, Jeff, that our need is greater than it ever has been. Yet some of the challenges that we just kind of take for granted or some of the challenges of fundraising are bigger than we've ever faced. I mean, we just always took for granted, well, Chris kettles are going to just kind of be there and all that, but that's all going to be a little different this year. So we're kind of interested to see how this all kind of filters out.
Yeah, and of course the Army's thinking how to respond. I mean, the Army is pressed by the response to COVID already, and then we had disasters, the hurricane season and wildfires, etc. So, every local Salvation Army unit is responding in some way to help people in these unusual times. And we say in the magazine, this year has been unlike any the nation has seen. So you're right. The kettle's now in its 130th year and helps the Army assist 23 million people a year throughout the year. So the Army is committed to continuing that. How to do that best is the question.
Well, there's some great things coming out. I mean, Walmart did a big promotion for the Salvation Army last week. They did a toy awards program, and some celebrities were promoting the angel tree. We know that angel trees in Walmarts are going to be in every Walmart across country. The Salvation Army is going to be allowed to put their kettles inside the stores. And Walmart is doing a roundup at the cash register, that's huge. It's like you go and they check out and you want to would you like to round that up to, an even amount? And so those are kind of new ventures, and we're grateful for the corporate sponsors that we have, not only Walmart, but there's so many different other things. And Elizabeth, they announced, since you're a fan of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, not necessarily the football team, they announced who's going to do the traditional Thanksgiving support of the Red Kettle effort, and that was
Kane Brown.
Kane Brown, and a country western artist, I think, right?
Yeah, he has a little country, a little bit of pop mixed in there. He's a bop.
It's going to be interesting to see how that all kind of goes out. So, Jeff, a phrase I learned a long time ago, it is what it is. We we kind of adjust and we move along, and we're very proud to kind of give a shout out to the whole Rescue Christmas, and we're grateful for the officers and the employees and soldiers and volunteers on the field that are going to be working hard this Christmas in doing the most
Yeah.
good.
And also all the people out there who are experiencing challenges at this time of year, and throughout the year because of the different crises that go, and challenges that we faced. That's why we focused on kind of a dual theme of dealing with suffering and also remembering to be grateful at this time of year as we approach Thanksgiving. There's an article in here that the author says, why is it that we tend to focus on what we don't have rather than what we do have? We focus more on what isn't going well and what we constantly want to change. Now, obviously, people have many reasons to question faith and purpose, etc., in their lives. They might ask at this time of year, well, be thankful for what? So there's kind of not only external challenges that our society is facing, but there's an internal battle too. And that's what we try to address to a degree in this issue. The back cover has a quote from Philippians. It says, fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. So we try to encourage people at this time of year to remember that, to give thanks, to be grateful, and that we can come through this period of testing the better for it.
There's all these external things that are kind of weighing down on us. And I've probably mentioned, I know I've mentioned this before in previous podcasts, so please forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But like, I know that I have to be really, really intentional when it comes to all these external influences and how much time and energy am I going to devote to it. Jeff, I can't even, I was watching, there's a commercial on the other night, and they were running a disclaimer right on the commercial that said, these actors practice social distancing, but masks are required in our store. It's kind of like, okay, I get it, but do you really need to kind of dumb it down for me? So it's sort of like we're constantly reminded of the unrest, the angst, the anger, the fear, the new normal, quote unquote, the fatigue. There's the whole pandemic fatigue. We had to deal with Zoom fatigue. Now we're having to deal with pandemic fatigue. Like, people are they're just tired of hearing about it, and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't minimize the legitimate threat that's out there, but I guess I learned a long time ago that some of this is an opportunity for me to kind of keep my attitude in check. And so I personally just keep my news intake, a daily news intake, to a very, very bare minimum. I get very excited about weather stuff. I mean, I tune into local news just to find out what's going on with the weather, but I think our readers and our listeners would want to know that we are trying to be very intentional in bringing not stories that are simplistic or kind of Pollyannish, but they also the things that are helping people carry this load that's on our souls, and also just reminding people the truth of God's word. This is a time we really, really need to look and lean heavy into what God tells us in His Word. And I always we talk often about that back page, and you have a great graphic, and you just alluded to the beautiful verse in Philippians.
Right. Yeah. So I get it that, the urge to, or the call to be grateful and thankful can almost sound like a bludgeon sometimes. I struggle with it myself. to remain positive. The Scripture calls us to submit all things to Christ and have Him govern our thoughts, etc. And I find that to be such a challenge. And really, without His grace, I could never do that. And with His grace, I am still acceptable in His sight. But so we don't want to, sound Pollyannish in our approach. At the same time, in this issue, we have some really great personalities that we feature. We are featuring a popular millennial influencer, Jeanine Amapola. She talks about, she blogs about her faith and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And she's very open about how she makes herself vulnerable through her blog and, you know, is dares to be honest about where she stands. We also feature personalities in our coverage of the hurricane and wildfire relief and how volunteers, man, have they stepped up with the Army officers and personnel to really help victims in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and California, and other places in the West and South that have been really ravaged long term by natural disasters. So, yeah, it's people, that make the difference.
Well, I like in particular in the mission section, I love the headline, Rush In and Remain. I was talking to a divisional leader in the Louisiana and Mississippi area on Facebook, and you can just hear the weariness in her, voice. It's just they've been hammered by two massive hurricanes, and as we're putting this together, there's another one bearing down. I think it's the 11th or 12th storm, named storm to hit the United States continent. And sometimes this stuff is really, really unbearable. But we admire the grit and the stick-to-itiveness that the Salvation Army officers and the volunteers have in these areas, and the support that people give. Because Jeff, the Salvation Army doesn't leave these communities. We live and work, and we have many of these communities over a century, and we love these communities, and we're just doing the best we can, but we can't do it alone, and we have to do it as a collaborative with other people, and certainly relying on the Lord for His strength and comfort.
I guess we should draw attention to the CBD, our Christian book ad that we have, which features your book, Colonel, Rest for the Rest of Us, which seems to be germane to our discussion.
Well, it's interesting because that little book has created a little bit of an international buzz. I know I've spoken on it quite a bit in recent days. I did some teaching for cadets in Thailand and Malaysia, and also all the officers in Chicago, the metro area there, who have been beat up in a lot of different ways. So there's been a lot of appreciation, and it's almost, I've been told it's like a prophetic word to our organization. So I'm just grateful that we've had the opportunity to publish that. We're excited too that we're going to be rolling out a new book in the Revealed series. This, I think, is the fourth book in the series. Our previous editor-in-chief, Lieutenant Colonel Alan Satterley, has sent us an offering, and it's called Pilgrimage Revealed, and it's a Bible study on the book of First Peter. So we're excited to offer that, and that will be coming to the field to all officers, but it will also be available at christianbooks.com and on Amazon as an ebook down the road. Jeff, there is an interesting thing that we put in this magazine. I think it's important for our readers to see the collaboration on within other nonprofits and human service organizations, the racial justice statement. Is there anything you want to speak to that?
Well, the Army is very sensitive to the need for equality, and its mission statement says serving human need without discrimination. So this is an official statement on opposing racism signed on by the Army and many affiliated organizations. And I know the National Commander, Commissioner Kenneth Hodder, was instrumental in forming that agreement. So we're it's a racial justice statement, and we list there the number of organizations that are participating in that. And it just reinforces that the Army is committed to achieving a more comprehensive approach to justice and safety that invests needed resources in schools, childcare, mental and behavioral health, affordable housing, job training, and other supportive programs and services.
When we pick themes, we work off of themes, and you and I kind of talk about this kind of months in advance, as we usually roll out the themes in August or September. And who knew last year, when we would roll out the themes for this year's issues, that we would be dealing with what we're dealing now. There's a very moving article, Jeff, that you found by author Lisa Radcliffe on, and it's entitled "Entrusted with Suffering." It's a very, very powerful short read of how she's having to deal with physical disabilities in her own life, and how her faith and her family, how that all kind of meshes together.
Yeah, I mean, she was a fully functioning, athletic, type A kind of a person. And one day, just the tables turned, and she suffered a debilitating health issue with excruciating pain. And, the diagnosis was brought terrible treatment and long recovery, uphill battle. And of course, she has to ask those, ask those questions we all ask at one time or another, acknowledging that suffering exists, that life has peaks, but certainly has valleys, and how to deal with it. And yeah, she. So that's we love those kind of personal stories about people, how they've coped with their challenges, and this is one of them.
I'm always interested in the feedback that we get from our very astute readers who notice little changes. And I think you'll notice some changes in this issue in particular, that there's some attention to maybe a little bit more graphic expression in. And you have an article here called "God's Love Still Reigns" by Kristen McClendon. And it's it's good to have these, elementary reminders that God is still in the midst. He's in the midst of our suffering. He's in the midst of this pandemic. He's in the midst of our joys and our sorrows. And I think the author here just kind of uh, gently reminds the reader to just be renewed in the fact that God is still with you.
Yeah, and some people might think, well, what about me? I mean, that all sounds good. What about me? Well, here's this person who, as a young child, saw her dad drive away, and then her mother was taken, and she certainly saw the bottom. So again, we appreciate those testimonies, those stories that are heartfelt. I also should point out, Colonel, that we'd had a discussion today with our correctional services folks. Every issue of the War Cry does carry a reply card that people can submit to request more information or follow up, or how to learn more about the Army, submit for Bible studies, and let us know. They'd like to know how to receive Christ as Savior, and they even tell us that they do receive Christ as Savior through reading the War Cry. So we're glad for that opportunity to support the Army's mission in that way by having those cards in.
And a statistic that we heard given to us today was, since mid-October of 2020, we've had over 1,800 people come to Christ, or at least tell us in the response cards, which is kind of on average. There's 2,000 plus people usually each year that come to Christ through our magazine, and we're really, really grateful for that news and, of course, that feedback.
And so we do have the Christmas issues out now. regular large print Spanish. And if people need replacements or additional copies, they can always order them. We do, print in total over 1 million copies of those. But you're not letting our grass grow under our feet, Colonel. You're already having us look forward to January, and I appreciate what the new content that you're bringing into the magazine. I think that's really helpful and healthy.
Well, you're the one that has taught me that a magazine has to kind of recreate itself about every 3 years or so. And we're in January. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but we're celebrating the 140th anniversary of the second oldest magazine in the United States, the War Cry. I think we should be extremely proud of that. But, we're grateful for those that have contributed in the past, and we have some new contributing writers right now. We're grateful for Major Annalise Francis, who is our core values writer for this next year. She, along with her husband, are the administrators of the Ray Joan Core Community Center in it's Ashland, Ohio. Beautiful little small center there that they're getting ready to build. I think they are in process of building a community pool. But Major Francis just kind of exudes a spirit of Thanksgiving in her article. We also are very, very grateful for Lieutenant Colonel Dan Jennings, who I think you're grateful for the substance of his article, Jeff, but you're also grateful for the fact that he is putting a lot of time and attention. He's giving us a lot of his articles already in advance. So this is stuff he's been sitting with for a long time, and we're grateful for his contributions.
Can't help but be impressed by the depth of commitment and spiritual awareness that Salvation Army officers express, and we get to represent that in our magazine. It's really something. And, we were writing today that, what is our identity? What is our true identity? And really, our identity is found in God, and to look to Him for our identity and what it means to be in Him and with Him and true to Him and have faith in Him is what is expressed by so many of these officers who write for the publication, including you.
Well, I try to chip in once in a while, and I appreciate the opportunities. And as you know, writing is not necessarily an easy thing, but for me, when the inspiration is there and the impressions are there, it kind of flows easy. And I know that usually means it's going to be something that will resound with folks. But I also try to make sure that I'm not hogging all the bylines and giving opportunity for other people. We're interested in people. Maybe there's a listener out there right now or a reader of our magazine, and you've got something that you want to share. By all means, go to thewarcry.org, click on contribution, and you'll see there how to submit articles for us. I'm constantly looking on the horizon for new authors. Jeff, the Yo Soy section is our offering to the Spanish-speaking audience that we have. Unfortunately, we do not have the means to translate every issue of the War Cry, as that is a very, very costly venture that right now we're not in position to do. But we conclude in November, Commissioner Francis's great book.
It's actually the IM series.
It's the IM series, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we're grateful to Commissioner Francis for the contributions that he has given to us. But I want our listeners to know that our Yo Soy section, starting in January, is going to have a whole new look, a whole new feel, as we have a new contributing writer, Major Ruth New. With her and her husband Richard are the ARC administrators in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I know we'll have her on a future podcast here talking about her and her passion for writing and her vision. So be looking for that. I'm excited about that page, Jeff.
Oh yeah, that's a great avenue for. She expressed how people from Latin America have great pride in their country, and we look forward to focusing on that and also what the Army's doing there.
Now, I will say, Jeff, I'm a little disappointed that we have an obscene picture in this book, in this particular magazine. If
you noticed?
Look, yes, if you look, the recipe for this month has Brussels sprouts in it. How did that get past me?
Yeah, really. Oh boy, they're kind of disguised there, but
I was on recent furlough. I was dining with my wife in a southern food kind of cuisine restaurant, and I'm always interested. See, one of my things is I ask people, like, if you were only going to pass through this town one time, where do you need to go eat? And the locals really know where. So when I go to that, they recommended this place. And when I went there, so I asked the server, I said, if I only could choose one side to my entree, what should I choose? And guess what she told me to choose?
Ugh.
Brussels sprouts.
Really?
And I said, it's illegal. I'm not going to do that. I cannot let that in my body. And I know people love Brussels sprouts, but we're really grateful for our staff. And, some people get a lot of kick out of trying these recipes. So we encourage you, if you like Brussels sprouts, there's this cast iron pork bake. And Elizabeth, I think you're going to try this out, right? You're going to try this out?
It will be a complete disaster. I can barely boil water. I'm like, is that a bubble? I don't know.
Oh, you got to read the recipe. These are easy, we lay it out for you there.
Maybe
they're difficult.
Maybe we could substitute Brussels sprouts with broccoli,
Oh, I love broccoli.
Okay.
Favorite vegetable alert.
Cauliflower, maybe. I don't know.
Now, also, we have that page. We have our quiz. And Elizabeth, you probably know the answer to this, so we're not going to ask you to answer it. But what is a baby turkey called? And the choices are hen, gobbler, chicken, or poult. So there you go.
You know I love a farm. I don't want to reveal the answer for any readers. I don't want to spoil it. This is on you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And
great question.
Yeah, I don't know. I see the answer sheet, but I won't turn it upside down to get it. But never fear, Jeff. As long as I'm here, we're not going to mess with the recipe or the puzzle page.
Good.
Not going to do that. We're
going to expand it, actually.
And we've actually, I hope people notice, we have like an artist that we work with that likes to submit some funny, lighthearted cartoons now and then. So we have another one there for us. And then kind of wrapping it up, this is Major Nancy Helms from the Western Territory has done a great job contributing this past year on spiritual formation issues and matters. And she has some good thoughts there on gratitude. We hope that's helpful to you. And also our assistant editor, Major Jason Swain, our resident historian, who is, as we're speaking, researching and working with our archives department on some more issues, more historical things for us. He's having a fun time looking at microfiche down there, all that kind of stuff. But there's a great little fun thing here, the Boozers Parade, little tidbits. And Elizabeth, the highlights in history continues to be something that is well loved by our readers and by people on social media.
A fan favorite across the board. Really exciting.
So I've challenged Major Swain to kind of, be looking for some unique things, and he went over a couple of ideas that he had. He's working on for 2021, Jeff. That I think you'll be very interested in.
Excellent. And we just do want to celebrate and give thanks for the Army, for our world, for our country, for this magazine, for our staff. We're very thankful to be in this role and to have this work to do, which we hope just makes inroads for the kingdom.
Well, we're grateful for those of you that take a few moments to listen to the podcast. We know that you have a lot of choices out there in podcast land, but we have a faithful following that continues to grow and help us to be ambassadors of our own podcasts and the War Cry and Peer Magazine. We thank you for your support on that, and we're grateful for the work that continues in this very unique time as the demands of the holiday season are upon us. That we will continue to pray for and encourage. We ask our officers to send us your stories. Tell us what's happening. If there's things that we can do and pray for you, Elizabeth, you're keeping the social media stuff fresh, and you're always looking for stuff, right?
Oh yeah, always looking like little binoculars for the web.
And I think before we came on for this, we offer our congratulations. It's hard for me to say this, but congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers for winning the World Series. And San Francisco Giants fan that I am, that's kind of hard to say, but still, you found some tidbits of the Salvation Army and the Los Angeles Dodgers in the annals of time. And, I appreciate all of the stuff that you're doing to kind of, pepper all that information out there and to kind of keep things alive and going for us. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Jeff, is there any other things that you want to say in conclusion here for our listeners on the November issue of the War Cry?
Just we join everybody in having a very thankful Thanksgiving, and remember, #Rescue Christmas.
Yeah, and also if anybody wants to send us a picture of what you've done with the pulled pork and the Brussels sprouts, just send it to thewarcry.org, and Elizabeth will bring it up. Don't send it to us in the mail because it's going to be worse.
Yeah. We should interject real quickly. If anybody out there has a story to tell about how they're using the War Cry in this age of oversaturation of media, and the contest between print and digital and TV and everything that draws our attention, we'd love to hear how the War Cry has made an impact in your world.
Yeah, just don't take it for granted that we know what's happening out there, because we may not know. We really, really, really need to hear from you. Well, with that brings this episode of the Fight for Good podcast to a close. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, remember to just download this podcast, just subscribe to it at your favorite podcast sites. You can read more at thewarcry.org. And also remember our teen magazine, peermag.org, for more information of what's happening in youth culture. So thank you for taking a few moments of your day, and we pray God's blessings. Happy Thanksgiving. Until next time, this has been the Fight for Good podcast. Bye for now.
Subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts.